And finally, the big finale, the Underworld. Hercules is sent to the Underworld, not for sightseeing, but to bring back Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of Hades. It's the original bring your dog to work day, except the dog weighs a ton and breathes fire and is basically Satan's pet. The last and strangest of Hercules' chores. After golden apples, man-eating mares, and cattle guarded by a triple-bodied giant, you'd think there was nothing left. But Eurystheus wasn't done humiliating him. So, in one final act of pettiness, he ordered Hercules to go fetch a souvenir from the underworld itself. Not just any souvenir. He wanted Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of Hades. Because sure, why not borrow Underworld God's monstrous pet like it's a library book? By now, Hercules had grown into the sort of figure who could walk into any kingdom and everyone would just step aside. Kings, queens, and even gods had dealt with him. He had sailed oceans, killed giants, tricked titans, but the underworld was a whole different arena. This wasn't about strength or cleverness. It was about stepping into the land of the dead, a place no mortal was supposed to stroll out of. To prepare, Hercules did the sensible thing. He went to Eleusis and got himself initiated into the Eleusinian Mysteries. These were secret religious rites that supposedly gave you a kind of spiritual passport for the afterlife. If you wanted a safe trip to Hades, this was your ticket. It was like getting travel insurance for the underworld. Hercules wasn't above brute force, but even he knew you didn't just kick open the gates of death without paperwork. So, initiation complete, he descended. The sources differ on the route. Some say he went through Taenarum in the Peloponnese, a cave thought to be an entrance to Hades. Others suggest Lake Acheron, or even deeper, more mystical portals. However you imagine it, the result is the same. Hercules stepping into a shadowy realm where the air is heavy and the souls of the dead drift like restless echoes. The underworld in Greek myth wasn't hellfire and punishment everywhere. Most of it was just grey, bleak fields, wandering shades, silence broken by the splash of dark rivers, Styx, Acheron, Lethe. The geography reads like a poet's nightmare. And through this, Hercules walked, still in his lion skin, still carrying his club, a mortal among ghosts. On the way, he encountered a few familiar figures. One was the ghost of Meleager, a warrior who had died young. Hercules, moved by his story, promised to marry his sister Deianira someday, which would later spiral into one of Hercules' great personal tragedies. A little foreshadowing, tucked neatly into the gloom. He also ran into Theseus, the Athenian hero, who was stuck in the underworld after a botched attempt to kidnap Persephone. Theseus was trapped on a stone seat that clung to him like glue. Hercules, because he couldn't help himself, tried to pull him free. He managed to rescue Theseus, though not his companion Pirithous, who was too tightly bound. So Hercules left with one half of a rescue mission complete. Not bad, considering the circumstances. Finally, Hercules reached Hades' throne room. There sat Hades, grim and quiet, with Persephone beside him. Now, Hades wasn't like Eurystheus. He didn't shriek or panic when Hercules appeared. He listened. Hercules explained his task. He wasn't here to steal or fight. He just needed Cerberus, alive and unharmed, and he promised to bring the dog back. Surprisingly, Hades agreed. But of course, there was a condition. Hercules could take Cerberus, but only if he captured him without using weapons. No sword, no arrows, not even the trusty club. Just his own strength. If he was truly the greatest of mortals, let him prove it barehanded. And so Hercules went to face the hound. Cerberus wasn't just a dog with 3 heads. He was described as massive, with a serpent for a tail and snakes sprouting from his back. His bark echoed like thunder. He was the perfect symbol of the underworld, terrifying, unyielding, impossible to bypass. Most souls couldn't even look at him without despair. But Hercules didn't flinch. He approached, wrestled the beast, and with arms like iron, forced him down. The three heads snapped and snarled, the serpent tail lashed, but Hercules held tight. Slowly, patiently, he overpowered the hound, pressing him into submission. He didn't kill him, he didn't even wound him. He just proved he could hold him still. It was brute force in its purest, rawest form. Strength against chaos, mortal will against the guardian of death. With Cerberus subdued, Hercules dragged him up to the surface. Imagine the sight. A giant hero walking into the daylight with a three-headed dog snapping at the air. People must have screamed, scattered, run for their lives. Eurystheus, as usual, was not thrilled. In fact, when Hercules showed up with Cerberus, Eurystheus dove into a storage jar to hide, because once again, his big plan to humiliate Hercules had backfired spectacularly. After the display, Hercules calmly returned Cerberus to the underworld, just as promised. The dog went back to his post, none the worse for wear, and the gates of Hades closed again. The balance was restored, and that was it. The final labor, the circle complete. Hercules had gone from lion-skin warrior to cosmic errand boy, from mucking out stables to carrying the weight of the heavens, and finally to dragging a monster out of death itself. 12 impossible tasks, each meant to break him, and yet each only cemented his legend. Of course, his story doesn't end there. Hercules' life after the labors was still full of chaos, tragedy, and eventual apotheosis. But the labors are the part that endured, the bedtime stories of impossible feats, the blueprint for what it means to be more than human and less than divine. The man who carried the sky, who tamed death's watchdog, who was punished endlessly yet kept going. That was Hercules.